minutes so that we can verify if what we've done is indeed recorded.
Yeah.
So, in the previous class we learned about how to connect devices using various cables, and we said that when you want to connect devices of the same type, you use crossover cable, which is this one. But when you want to connect devices of different types, you use copper straight through. But when you want to connect a device for configuration, want to configure a device from your PC, you use console cable. Yeah. So just for a quick demo, I choose computer, I put there, then come to the routers. I take this router and I put here. And when you want to connect it to a console cable, you just choose console, go to connections, and you choose console cable. You click on the PC, you choose the first interface, RS232. Then you come to the router, console. Alright. Now how do you obtain the router's interface on the PC? You just click on the PC, give it some time, then you come to desktop and the terminal. Leave everything the way they are and click OK. Now we have obtained the router's interface from our PC. Now we just have to say no and start configuring the router. And yeah, we want to do a quick recap so that you understand better, or when later when you're reviewing this video, you understand what we did in the previous class that was not recorded.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we move from user exec mode to privilege exec mode? We use command enable.
Enable.
Yeah, and now we are in privilege exec mode. How do we move from privilege exec mode to global configuration? We just use config T.
Configure
Terminal. Configure terminal or config T, whichever. Alright. So the first thing that we're going to do here is just to configure hostname. Give this device a hostname. Let's say test router 1. Right. Then after hostname, what did we do? What did we do? We configured
banner message.
Yes, we configured the banner message. So we just say banner MOT,
then
message
MOT,
of the day.
Yeah.
Then any character. Then you say this is router 1, whichever message, but you have to give message depending on the situation that you are in. This is router 1, and you hit enter. And then after this one, we were configuring privilege exec mode password, which was enable password. Let's say Cisco. I normally use Cisco because it's easier to remember, and I do it very quickly. And then after configuring privilege exec mode password, we configure line console password. Just say line console 0, and now you say password to be Cisco. Alright, so after Cisco, whenever a user input the password, then he should authenticate login command. Okay. Then we said also under the line console and line VTY, we need to configure login synchronous and exec timeout. So
at this point, we only put login after the console password. But for the privilege or modes like a passwords,
yeah,
up there is no login.
Yes, privilege is not a line. We put a login when user is accessing a line. Yeah, privilege exec mode is just is a mode, not a line. So we configure login synchronous. And can you remember also what we did configure at the line interfaces? It was exec timeout. So
yeah.
whenever someone stays idle, just like your computer, when you are away for quite some time, it will lock out. It will be locked. Now you need to re-enter the password again. Let's say 3 minutes, and you exit. So you have to make sure that when you are configuring basic settings, you start with the hostname. Then the banner message is very important. Banner message should be a very strict message, not what I've just wrote here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be something like that, like this router, I mean no unauthorized to this device. Any what can I say? Any unauthorized access will be punished by law. Something like that. Very strict message. And the next thing, you configure privilege exec mode password, which is enable password. And the third thing is to configure the parameters for line console. The various parameter, you enter the line console first, then you configure the password, then you log in. Login command is very important for a line interface, because if you don't configure this command here, if you don't input this command here, then the device will not ask for password. And also login synchronous. I told you that login synchronous prevents log messages from interrupting our configuration. And also exec timeout, which I've just explained right now. So after line console 0, you move to line VTY. VTY 0 to 15. We have 16 interfaces, VTY interfaces. So it's 0 to 15. What do you do? Just input password. Let's say Cisco. You can use.
So are there points like the line VTY can come? Can come even after the console? Doesn't matter. I mean, after the.
It doesn't matter. It can come even before host name.
Oh.
Yeah. So what matters here, like when I'm configuring line console 0, first of all, you must enter that line interface for you to configure login synchronous. Meaning login synchronous cannot come before this one. You understand?
Login, it has to come after.
Yeah, because you are configuring inside something, so that thing must be there first. Yeah. So also for VTY password, then you log in, you authenticate the user, and another command is login synchronous. And also, as we said, exec timeout for a remote user. Let's say for when the users are idle for 2 minutes, he will be locked out and they will log in again. Okay, then exit, and we are done configuring line console and VTY parameters. So when we go back to PPT that we said, now we need to encrypt all the configured password. How do we encrypt all the configured password? We just say service password encryption. That's all. This command here will encrypt all the password that we just configured. Remember, before we could configure this command here, all the passwords that were configured were seen as plain text. Anyone can read them. But when you configure this command, when you include this command here, all the passwords are encrypted. Right. So let's go very fast. Start. We need to disable IP domain look and prevent brute force attack. We just disable. We just say, for example, let me test for IP domain lookup. Let's say do right, something like that. So you can see translating right, this one. Because Cisco AS only recognize do, but this one it doesn't recognize. So it's trying to translate it, and at this point you cannot do anything. When you try to click, nothing is happening. So that's why you need to configure no IP domain lookup, such that when the typos come, it doesn't affect the configuration for long. So I'll just abort it. I'll try to click on Ctrl+Shift+6 to abort it. And now let's configure no IP domain lookup. Yeah. So when I enter that command again, you will see. So as you can see, it was not translating as before. You can see it was going for so long until I aborted it. But now here, when you enter it, it's aborted immediately. And then, sorry. And then now we want to prevent brute force attacks on the device. Brute force basically means when you are trying to guess someone's password following a certain pattern. For example, when your name is let's say Ken, so you can guess like Ken 2022, Ken 123. So we want to prevent kind of a situation where somebody is going to guess the password several times. That's called brute force attack. So we just say login, block for 180 seconds. Whenever a user attempts 3 times within let's say 60 seconds. So basically this command here, it will block a user when the user has made 3 unsuccessful attempts within 60 seconds. So for example, when you're trying to log into a computer and for 3 consecutive attempts they're all unsuccessful, then the device will lock you for 180 seconds. I hope you understand that one.
Yeah.
Okay. And login delay is not that much important because we just configured brute force. And description.
So you have to use one of either prevent or logic delay.
Yeah, this is the best version of it. Prevent brute force. This will only will delay you, but will not block you. Somebody who delays you but doesn't block you. So this is much better. Okay. So let's give description to interfaces. So for example, when you hover over this router here, you will see interface like gigabit Ethernet 00, 01, 02. Okay. So you can just say interface. You enter the interface. Interface gig 0/0. That's how we write interface, or you can just write in full like interface giga 0/0. Hit enter, and description is self-explanatory. Let's say that interface was connecting to a switch that was hosting HR department. So let's say this interface connects to HR dep switch, something like that. We just give a description based on what that interface is connecting, or such kind of protocols that are configured on that interface. Okay, so the same you can do to gig 01, for example, gig 01, and then description. Let's say this connects to IT, Steve, and etc. And now when you finally come to saving configuration, we need to save the configuration here, so that all we are doing is not lost. So you just say
do live.
Yeah. So just say.
Oh, you have to text first. Oh yeah.
But not important. For a do command, you can even do it when you are in interface mode or global configuration mode. So you just hit enter, and you are done. And now do you show what you've just configured? Do show start or run. Start or run. And all what you've done here, as you can see, we've done hostname and login block for 180 seconds whenever 3 attempts are made within 60 seconds. And you can see the passwords are encrypted here. No one can read that password. And also no IP domain lookup as we've just configured, and the description of the interfaces. As you can remember, we said that gig 00, this interface connects to HR department switch, 01 connects to ICT department switch, and let's go down. So you can see line console 0, we have exact amount of 3 minutes, and the password is encrypted, and also login synchronous plus the login command. Same applies to line VTY. Okay, so that was all about the previous class, which was to show you how to configure basic settings on the devices. You can hear some noise from my side, can you?
That's okay.
Yeah, I think there's a heavy vehicle outside the building that is making a lot of noise. And it's like they are digging a well, so it's gonna take a lot, it's gonna disturb us for long. But you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay, so in our topic today, it's a very interesting topic. You know, we are starting, we are going step by step from a very simple configuration to much complicated one. So today we are going to understand switch port modes plus VLAN configuration. It's very, very important, you know, in any network. This is the foundation of everything. You must understand which ports are these and how VLANs are assigned to each department. So, for example, I will go back to Packet Tracer and include our switch. So we take 2960 switch, and I click on the switch. Come to CLI, and the switch is still booting, so we'll have to wait until it boots. Okay, so the switch has finished booting, and this is the interface of the switch. And we need to understand first what we mean by access and trunk ports. So with that, I will need another switch. And 2 computers, let's say 4. Then we connect them. We said when we're connecting devices of the same type, we use crossover. So you choose the first interface of this one. Also here you choose the first interface of that one. But the best way to do is to use automatic. That goes very fast. I'm doing this so that I can explain what I've just written on the progress guide.
Yes.
Okay. So what do we mean by access port? Access port is that port that is connecting to the host devices, the end devices. These ports are ports on a switch, not on a router. Routers don't have access and trunk ports. Routers have interfaces, layer 3 interfaces. So for a switch has, by default, all ports are access ports. So it's upon us to configure a port to be either an access port or trunk port. For example here, when I can show on my topology, if I can show on my topology here, Now you can hear me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's a vehicle outside our apartment. It's making a lot of noise. It's a delivery, very heavy
That's
stuff.
okay.
Okay, so I was saying access port is the port that is connecting to end device. Any port that is connecting to an end device is an access port. For example,
Okay, can you repeat that?
I'm saying a port switch, any switch port that connects to end device is an access port. It should be an access port. For example, FA0/3 here, FA0/2 here, same applies on this side. FA0/2, FA0/3 are all access ports. Should be access port when we are configuring them. But
okay, so any switch connected to any device is access port.
Any port connecting to an end device. Remember, this port is connecting to this device. This port here is connecting to this end device. Same applies to this one and this one. So this one should be access ports. Should be in access mode or access ports. And now, any port connecting a switch to switch should be trunk. Just like I said, when we are connecting a switch to switch, we use crossover cable. And now, those ports should be trunk. Do you have any question as at that point? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm very sorry. We lost our Wi-Fi, so I am using mobile data now.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a power blackout and the Wi-Fi has gone. Yeah, so I'm just I've connected my data bundle.
Okay.
Alright, so I was saying that any port, you can see my screen.
Yes, it's coming.
Yeah, so I was saying that any port that's connected to end device should be access port. But a port that connects to another, a switch connecting another switch using a particular port, then that port should be trunk. For example, this switch here is connected to this switch using this port, then the two ports should be trunk. Any question?
So yeah, I got you. Any port connected to end device is an access point, but a
port
connected to another access port. Access port. Yes.
Yeah.
A switch connected to another access. A switch connected to another switch is a trunk. Right?
Yeah. So why am I saying this? When we'll be configuring VLANs, that's why I'm telling you that this topic goes hand in hand with VLAN configuration. One port can access one VLAN number at a particular time. It cannot access more than one VLAN number, and that's why it should be an access port. So for example, when you're going to configure VLAN, this port will be in one VLAN, and also this one can be in one VLAN. Okay, but we will say that a port can access one VLAN at a time. An access port can access one VLAN at a time. Yeah. So for this VLANs here to pass through from this switch to this switch, then this port must be trunk, because trunk accepts more than one VLANs at a time. I think you are getting me. Hello?
Yes, I get lost at that point. You say.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I'm hearing you. I hear you well.
Okay. I'm saying, just a minute. If a port is connected to an end device, then that port should be an access port. But when a port on a switch connects to another port on a switch, then
In a that are you recording now or the recordings?
you can see my screen.
I can see your screen, but I'm saying the recording. Did you start recording again? Or?
Yes, I'm still recording.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm still recording. So don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying that this one are access port, but this one and this one are trunk ports. Why? Because trunk ports allows passage of many VLANs, but an access port will only access one VLAN. So for example, on this switch, when we have configured even 10 VLANs, and we want those 10 VLANs to pass through to this other switch, then this port and this port must be trunk. They cannot be an access port because access port only accepts one VLAN. Yeah.
So that means that connection between switch 1 and switch 0 will be a trunk.
Yeah, all of them. Trunk port, trunk port. On this side, trunk port.
Yeah.
On the other side, trunk port.
But like from switch 1 to the PC4 or to the PC5, those are access ports.
Yeah.
What the? Okay.
So you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. So before anybody configures VLAN, that's a simple concept that we should all understand. How to configure ports as a trunk and access ports, and we assign them to VLAN numbers. Okay, so I will begin with this switch, and we are going to configure ports as trunks and access ports. So just a minute, let me just pay for Wi-Fi. Yeah. Okay, now we can proceed. I've said that this port and this port will be trunk, but all this data connected to end devices are access ports. So I'll start configuring from this switch here. I'll click on this switch, and how do we do? Enable, config T. You understand? Hello?
Hello? Yeah.
You can hear
Sorry,
me?
Yeah.
Okay. I can just proceed. Alright. So how do we configure ports as a trunk and access ports? For example, this is the first port, which is interface FA0/1, and we need it to be trunk. So we click on the switch and we say interface or int FA0/1. We just say switch port mode to be trunk. That's all. As you can see, the first thing that happens is to turn off the interface first, then turn it on again. It was down, and it turned up again. So you have to identify which interface is connected to which device. If it's an end device, that's access port, but switch to switch is trunk. So how to configure trunk? You go to that switch and enter that interface that you want to configure as trunk. For example, we want to configure this interface here as trunk. This one. Then you just say switch port mode trunk. and that's done. Exit. So let's go to this switch again and configure this interface as trunk. Enable config T.
Enable config T.
Then interface FA0/1, which is this interface, this one. Then you say
it will be
switch port mode.
switch
Port mode to be trunk.
trunk.
Yeah. Exit. Yeah, that's all. So
Okay.
this one.
So
Yeah.
from this side, that means to configure them, you will go first to the, like for F1/1, you will go to the switch 01, or you can do both on switch on either switch, like a switch 1 or switch 0. You
Well-
suppose when you are
Well,
for those when you are configuring them, do you use both switches?
yes, you do configuration on both switches. You do configurations
Sorry?
on both switches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we've configured trunk. So I'll just do this. Like I said, we can how to draw background. You click on the rectangle there, and you say fill color, and you select the color that you want. Let's say I want that blue, and I can say here like this one, something like that. I press escape, take it up a bit, and I write. You comment. This is the comment thing. You say trunk.
Wait.
So this one and this one
Yeah.
are trunk. And you can say
Open.
we can say this one access. So that's why girl access. Okay, so this one access, this one access, but this one trunks, right? Okay. So before I can configure access port, we always configure access port when you are assigning them to VLAN numbers. So for example, I want let me just say this yellow, and I select another color. So for better understanding of the theory part, I will send some materials. Okay, so here I want this PC and this PC to be in VLAN 10. So I will comment. I'm saying I want this PC here, this computer, and this computer to be in VLAN 10, and that's why they have same background color, but this one and this one to be in VLAN 20. So I'll continue commenting. Okay, remember we configured this interface and this interface as trunk interfaces. But now this one, and this one should be access interface, access ports. You understand? Because they are connected to the end devices. And when I'm configuring them as access ports, I want them to access VLAN numbers at the same time, because we are doing VLAN configuration on the switch. So this port is connected to this PC, and this PC should access VLAN 10, meaning this port here should be in VLAN 10, same as this port. But this port here is connected to PC 3, which is in VLAN 20, meaning this port here should be VLAN 20. Same applies to this port here. So let's begin.
Yeah, okay. A question there. So that means for VLAN.
Yeah.
So you told me the VLAN are those access ports and trunk. That's what we call VLAN, right?
No. VLAN stands for Virtual Local Area Network. VLAN is basically used for, how do we say that, for how you can divide your departments. For example, in one organization, in one topology, we can have HR department, ICT department, etc., etc. So VLAN is how to divide your network into into something we call departments in the real world. And by default, those departments cannot communicate in a network until we implement what is called inter-VLAN routing. So VLAN basically is to increase security in the network. If you don't want a particular department to communicate with another department, we implement VLANs. So VLANs is used to how do we say them? To separate what is called broadcast domain, or to divide the network into departments. Yeah. So for example, in your room, you can have a sitting room, bedroom, kitchen. So that's what we call VLAN. But all in all, it's one thing. Inside it is a lot of rooms. Yeah. So in your room, you
now
can, so in
it's up to you to decide. This is if you're saying the VLAN 10 and VLAN 10, that means both PCs, like the PC2 and the PC5, they are in the same department.
Yes. That's why they're in the same VLAN. Same VLANs will communicate by default, meaning they're in the same they should be in the same department. So you can just say finance, let's say finance pool 1, finance pool 2. So finance should be able to communicate with each other. HR pool 1, HR pool 2, they should be able to communicate with each other. So what I'll be doing, I found out that I should be sending notes first, then you go through them, then I do the practicals. I think that will be better, so that you can understand what we are talking about better. Because it's a good idea that at least you have a theory knowledge about what you are handling practically. It's so hard to learn something practically when you don't understand the theory behind it. Okay, so I have said this port here will access VLAN 10, this port here will access VLAN 20, and VLANs, there's what is called VLAN numbers. So we assign ports what's called VLAN numbers, 20, 30, 40, 50, etc., etc. So I'll go to this port here, and I say interface FA0/3. FA0/3. Then we say switch port mode access. Remember when we were configuring trunk, we said switch port mode trunk, but now this is switch port mode access. You hit enter. Then we need that port to access VLAN 10 for this computer. So we just say switch port access VLAN 10. So the first thing that you do, you enter that interface, then you change mode to access, and then the port should access VLAN 10. Exit. You understand?
My boys are crying, so 1 second.
Sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, no problem. So I'm saying, when you're configuring a port as an access port, then you enter that interface first. Then you configure it as switch port mode access. Then after configuring as switch port mode access, you assign it to VLAN number. Switch port access VLAN 10. Very simple. As you can see, access VLAN does not exist, creating VLAN 10. And I made a little mistake that we are going to do when I've done assigning VLAN to this port here. So this is FA0/2 interface, FA0/2. Just say switch port mode.
Switch port access.
Switch port mode access. Then switch port
Mode access.
Yeah, switch port access VLAN 20 now for this.
Oh,
yeah.
So you start with switch ports switch ports mode access.
Yeah.
And switch port access VLAN and its number.
Yeah. Yeah, and the mistake that I did, before you can assign VLAN to a port, it's recommended that you create the VLAN first and name the VLAN. I didn't create the VLAN and name them. So let's create the VLANs and name them. So how do we create VLANs? You just a simple command. You just say VLAN 10. And as when you enter VLAN 10, you enter VLAN interface. And now you can name the VLAN. Let's say name finance. And you hit enter. Exit. And let's get another VLAN, which was VLAN 20. And name HR. Exit. And do right. So the first thing that we could have done was to do this before we assign the ports to the VLAN numbers. We create VLANs and name them, which is very, very important. Yeah.
Oh, we start with the creating the VLAN.
Yes, and you name the VLANs.
Okay.
Which is very, very important.
And from there, then we do.
Now we do this.
Okay.
Yeah. After we've created the VLANs, now we can do this. And now, how do we check the configuration? We just say do show VLAN. Just say do show VLAN. Do show VLAN. Very simple command. And as you can see, we have the default VLAN, which is VLAN 1. By default, all switch ports are in VLAN 1 until they are assigned to a particular VLAN. So we've created how many VLANs? 2 VLANs, VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. And as you can see, they all have accessed a particular port. For example, VLAN 10 is finance and it's FA0/3. VLAN 20 is HR FA0/2. So that's all how we can configure VLANs. Very, very simple and important. Okay, so I'll move to the next switch so that you can understand better. So I click on the switch and enable, configure terminal. And the first thing that we do here is to remember we have already configured this interface as trunk when we were doing on this side also. So let's configure this to access VLAN 20, this to access VLAN 10. So what do we do first? We create the VLANs and name them. So let's say VLAN 10, name was finance. Very simple, exit. So VLAN 10 command, then you name it. Another one VLAN 20. Name was HR. You exit. Now we can proceed. Sorry. VLAN.
The name is 20.
Yeah, VLAN 20 should the name should be HR. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so let's assign these ports VLAN numbers. For example, this is FA0/3. So you just say interface FA0/3. Hit enter. Then you say switch port mode access.
Access.
Yeah.
Switch port mode access.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then switch port to access VLAN.
Port of access.
VLAN 10.
VLAN.
VLAN 10.
Yeah.
Then you exit. And now another interface was this port FA0/2. Interface FA0/2. Switch port mode access.
Port mode access.
Yeah. Then
Switch port access
VLAN
VLAN
20.
20.
Exit.
Yeah.
So in packet tracer there's always a style of writing. I told you that if you don't know the complete command, you just press on tab. You can see I was trying to write switch port access here, then tab wrote it for me, then I tried to write a V, tab wrote VLAN here. So you just hit on tab when you don't know the complete pattern of the command. So that's how that's how we can
just
Yes.
when you click on tab, it will help you to complete
The command that you are trying to write. Yeah. So you just hit on tab, and tab will help you finish the command that you just started writing.
Okay, so I was saying something that like devices in the same VLAN will communicate. Devices in the different VLANs will not communicate by default. By default basically means nothing has been done. But when something is done, they will communicate, all of them. So as per now, what is done at the router's level, and we will not reach that level. Meaning devices at the different VLANs will not communicate. So what we want to do, we just have to assign IP addresses to devices IP address to all the devices in the network. For example, I'll click on this PC here. I have to assign IP address to a computer. Then you go to desktop, IP configuration, and you click on static, and you assign IP address 192.168.1.1, let's say .1.10, and a subnet mask for that one. So I'll copy.
Come again. I didn't catch that part. Say
okay. I want to try if I was telling something like devices in different VLANs will not communicate by default, but devices in same VLAN will communicate. So how do we want to simulate that? We need to assign IP addresses to all the computers so that we can test what we just said right now. So I click on this computer here. You come to desktop, then you click IP configuration, then you come to static, under static here, then you assign IP address 192.168.1.10, and when you click subnet mask, it will automatically fill up. Then you just close. Then you come to this device also. You come to desktop, IP configuration. I paste what I just copied, and I change this to 20. That one, that's okay. Then come to this, you change this to 30, click here.
30 or
Yes, yes.
why is it 20 or 30? Why 30?
Sorry.
Why the IP you change it to 30
Well, I'm
instead
just
of
trying to
20?
assign any random IP address.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So this one I sent to 40. And that's okay. So we need to remember that this device and this device, this PC2 and PC5 are in the same VLAN 10, and now they should be able to communicate. This PC3 and PC4 are in same VLAN 20 and they should communicate, but this PC4 and PC5 will not communicate. PC3 and PC2 will never communicate because they are in different VLAN. So what do we do? Let's try communication. The IP address of this PC5 is I just configured it right now. 1.40, 192.168.1.40. So I'll try to ping it from this PC. You come to desktop, then command prompt, and then you say ping 192.168.1.40, and as you can see, it's communicating successfully. Okay, so let's try to ping the IP address of this PC from VLAN 20 PC.
So when you saying you want to ping,
Yes.
that means you want to check if those two switches or those two pieces are connected. Are like,
Well, a ping command is used to test communication.
okay,
We
ping
use
command is
end-to-end communication. When I want to test if a particular device is reachable, are you there? I ping you. It's like I say hello. Ping is like notifying, confirming if somebody is there.
Okay, so this PC3 is in VLAN 20, and now let's try to ping a computer that is VLAN 10, which is 168.1.40. It will not communicate. Why? They are in the same VLAN. It will be timed out, time out, time out, time out. So that's it, and I want to try this PC VLAN 20 PC here with the VLAN 20 PC here, and they will communicate. This PC has IP address of .30, so I'll try to ping .30 here. Change that to 30, and I hit enter. You can see they are communicating. Why? They belong in the same VLAN. So what you have to understand,
so
yeah,
they can only communicate when they are in the same VLAN.
Yes, by default. Until we shall have reached the routing protocols. There is something that is called inter-VLAN routing that you will understand how it's operate to enable devices in the different VLANs to communicate.
okay. So let me just go back to a document just a little bit. Just let me open it. Okay, so let me explain what VLAN is. Let me explain what VLAN is. Although you will read it also, you will read it later.
Yeah.
Okay, so VLAN is a way of creating multiple broadcast domain in a switch. You logically group devices in the same broadcast domain. Broadcast domain basically means it's something like broadcast domain is like an area of application that when you say hi, everything is listening to you. Broadcast, it's like you are talking to everyone. So it's that particular area that is covered with that inside that domain that's called broadcast domain. Then each VLAN acts as a subgroup of a switch port in Ethernet switch. Okay, a VLAN is like a physical LAN, but allow us to be grouped together in the same broadcast domain, even if they are not connected to the same switch. Okay, by default, all switch ports are in VLAN 1, just like I said, and by default, devices in different VLANs will not communicate. I've just said right now, and also advantages of VLANs is less costly. Remember when you divide your house like this bedroom, this is sitting room. I can say it's less costly because you cannot combine a room to a single room to host everything. Meaning you'll be having other rooms like a kitchen outside, a bedroom on another building, something like that. But in VLANs, we divide that room into sub rooms to accommodate what we want. Then it improves security. We've said that devices in different VLANs by default cannot communicate. So, for example, HR guys are very sensitive guys, and let's say IT guys, there's a bad guy in IT group, and he wants to try to infiltrate a finance system. So when we can implement that, HR guys, finance guys cannot be able to communicate with IT guys, or finance guys can communicate with IT guys, but IT guys cannot start the communication. Then it improves performance. That's self-explanatory. Separate LAN to each network. That's self-explanatory. And then how to configure VLAN. So we need to understand several VLANs. There are some that are called reserved VLANs. VLAN 1 is a default VLAN. Then you can assign VLANs from VLAN 2 to VLAN 101. That's normal range VLAN. You will read about them. So it's not a big deal. I sent you this document on your email.
Thank you.
Yeah, I sent it to you. So what you've just done, you can see here. Configure VLAN. You enter the port mode access VLAN 2, access VLAN 3, etc. And how to configure trunk. Interface that one, switch port mode, trunk. So this is very easy. It's very easy, and it's going to help you. We'll look at this later. Or we can just look at it right now, so that we are done with the VLAN. Okay, so I think you have understood how to configure VLAN and some theory behind the VLANs. And when you go to this document, just start reading it this week, so that when we meet in the other week, you are about to, you understand every concept that I shall be explaining. So by let's say by Friday or by Thursday next week, I will tell you what to read about, so that when we start configuration, you have some theory knowledge about it. So for example, next week, if I go down, let me just see. This is just theories. Most of these theories. Most of these are theories, but you need to understand them. These are all theories. When we meet again, we'll be configuring what's called spanning tree protocol and EtherChannel. Yeah. So you will go to, you'll start reading what's called a spanning tree protocol. I have the notes here, and I send them to you, so you understand what the spanning tree protocol means, the rapid spanning, the theory behind them, and the EtherChannel. So we are going to understand how to configure them. All right.
Are these not the step like the document that you sent me has all these, or it was just for the
It has. I sent a document that has everything. So for your case,
we started from the practical. I didn't start from the theory.
We could have understood everything if we started here. We could have understood everything if we could started from introduction to networking. So you said that you have some skill. Some understanding of the introduction to networking.
Yeah.
So we were starting from the theory part. That's why I decided to start on the Packet Tracer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that will basically mark the end of today's class, because I don't want to spend a lot of time today. I'm very tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was all about VLAN configuration, how to know the ports, and how to do it. So I'll be sending an assignment that combines what we did.